Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Velen, and this is Roots, and/or Roots 3. I am going to be showing you a whole lot of good stuff today on rituals and how they can be automated, how they can constantly be used, and how you can, well, actually kind of integrate them into each other as well. It's really good. So let's get into this. First I should mention, you can call this Roots 3 if you want. It is the third version of it, but it's technically still just Roots. So let's get into making pyres. So there are some basic rules you should know about pyres that makes them so much better than previous versions. Don't overlook pyres. They're very strong. So if you open up your book of druidic arts and you click on rituals, it's this part down here. Important detail. All rituals will interact with inventories beneath them to replenish ingredients and restart rituals, allowing for automation. This is really, really important. So, for example, you can see I have a ritual set up here for Healing Aura, which is going to be the first ritual that we're going to be covering. I've got them all on a list on my side here. So, Healing Aura ultimately will heal all entities nearby. So, even if you've got a skeleton horse or undead things or creepers or whatever, and you want to heal them, this will heal them. It doesn't hurt them. It just will slowly heal them over time, yourself included. And of course, a few other important details about pyres in general is you can put them out once started with a bucket of water or just some kind of water. Needs to be clicked on it. If you sneak and click on there with a bucket of water, it just kind of like flows everywhere. So you got to be careful with that. Putting a chest underneath, it will feed it ingredients once lit. And in some cases, it might actually put ingredients in there, but that's a very specific case. You may also need other options nearby. One being standing stones, which usually consists of at least 2 rune stones capped with a chiseled rune stone on top. In some cases, it might be much more, and they don't have to be in a specific spot, just in a general, like, 3 blocks away, whether it be there or here in this case, which would actually only be 1 block away diagonally from the pyre. But that's just a general idea. So if you're missing something in your ritual, in this case, Healing Aura, we're going to click here and look. It tells you all the ingredients and what it does and everything. Hostile creatures will also be healed. Be wary. But if you go to the next page, a lot of people miss this. It says, hey, look, this is the stuff that you need nearby. Look at that. I currently have a birch tree nearby. It's your most basic version. It's not even really a birch tree. I just kind of placed the blocks there. But it counts, right? And it doesn't have to be exact, but it's generally like 3 spaces away. In the image, it's like 2 spaces away. It's an example. Be careful when you light things with your flint and steel. This could get torched. Otherwise, runestones nearby and so on. So I am only using this offering plate in most of these examples, not all of them, to hold a water bucket. In one of them, or perhaps 2, I think it's just one of them, there is going to be a use where that actually affects the pyre itself. Now, in order to access a pyre and use it, of course, you light any of the spaces around the pyre or the pyre itself, and if it is currently set up with all the ingredients in it properly, it will light on fire. And then the effects will start happening. Now in this case, you can see I've got 5 ingredients. If I right click with an empty hand, stuff comes off, put that back on. I know I've covered this in the basics before, but still, this is all about pyres, right? So if you want, this is pretty much it. It's set up, it meets the requirements because the birch tree is nearby, the standing stone is nearby, and if you recall, in the picture, they're across from each other. It doesn't have to be exactly like that. They just need to be somewhere near it. In the an outside perimeter. I find about 3 blocks away on the straight and about 1 block away on the diagonal is usually a pretty good guideline, or rather 2 blocks away, 1, 2. So yeah, but let's light this up, and I will show you. I can light it on the right, and it will automatically light. And you can see in here that the ingredients are now 1 less than they were before. There was 62 of each of these. This gives off a healing aura in quite a distance. I'm going to be putting the information about the range of each of these on the screen as we go through them, because I don't really remember, and it'll probably be a lot easier in editing. So if I proceed with this, it will continue burning until all of these pretty much are used up. or your world, this is unloaded or something like that. Now, I showed previously that there is a little, like, a dispenser with a flint and steel next to one of these things. And you can, yeah, there you go. It just used up another set of ingredients, and it just relit itself. You don't need to have a burning fire constantly going. It will automatically continue going because it's already lit. It's just adding in the ingredients from below. But if you have that dispenser next to it, it's just a convenience thing so that you didn't have to carry around a flint and steel. You just press a button. That's all that's there for. Nothing else. So don't get that confused. It's not a required mechanic to light these things. Please. Anyway, this is Healing Aura, and it will continue burning until I otherwise tell it to stop. And in this case is what I'm going to do. There we go. Just by putting that down, it has now stopped and ceased healing in an area. I would show you my own health being replenished and stuff, but seriously, it's just a very slow healing aura in a large area. Done. So let's move on to the next one here. Heavy Storms, which is over here. Heavy Storms makes it rain. That's right. So you can see here, I have time stopped right now because I pretty much shut that off so that it would be very easy to determine. The sun is above. We have our different ingredients. If you want to see the ingredients, I recommend using JEI or your Druidic Arts book. It will easily tell you the different ingredients for each of the rituals. And in this case, you can see them here. So if I light this up, pretty much, it will start making it rain. It gives this really cool fog effect in a circle around it. It will last for a decent amount of time, but you only need to light it real briefly. You can actually put it right back out, and it will, there we go, continue raining. But the cool fog effect goes away. If you want to replenish these things, now I'm in creative, so it's automatically going to do this from ingredients from thin air. But if you have the ingredients to continue to make the same ritual again, you just sneak right-click with an empty hand, and all the ingredients will go back in, provided you have them in your inventory. Not if they're in your component pouches or backpacks or things like that. They have to be in your inventory, so keep that in mind. But that is another way of automatically reloading this. The other way is, of course, having all of the replenished items in a chest below it already. So, which, if you want, I use some quark turf stairs here just so that it kind of disguises a little bit more, but obviously you can, if you so desire, just kind of fill it in, and it doesn't look that bad. It just looks like there's some more wood underneath. It doesn't really look like there's a chest, but it's a solid block in this entire area, so you can't really access the chest without having some kind of side access to it or underneath or something like that. But anyway, moving on. It is raining. It is annoying. I hate this. It makes viewing difficult on YouTube, let alone Twitch or other streaming platforms. So what we're going to want to do is Divine Protection. This one here uses a bunch of these ingredients that you see here floating around in the wonderful display. But let's light this up. It will remove the rain, most importantly. But it also will make the nights shorter and days longer. How much? Somewhere in the neighborhood of 30%. So it's something like that. It's a bit somewhat randomish, but that gives you kind of an idea. It can be used at day or night. Previously, it was only usable during the daytime, but now it is now usable at either. So if I light this up, you can now see that the rain stops and the sun comes out. Yay! Which is beautiful, and it gives these really cool effects while it's going on. Now, if I were to bring out a husk, normally these guys are not injured by sunlight, but this will also burn undead. So, put him in here. He starts getting attacked by this, and he's, of course, trying to take cover, but it's not going to do him any good. And just to show you, let's go underneath some trees. And you see he is going to be attacked by the divine protection that this gives. And, of course, it's not going to injure players or anything like that. But, yeah. So, now, whoops. Let me grab this and put this out. There we are. Lovely. Moving on to the next one, we've got the storm of fire. This one here. Why someone would want the storm of fire, I don't know. But players will not take damage from this, but they may take damage from the fire that ensues on the ground. So be prepared for a little bit of interesting stuff. Actually, I didn't even think about it. I've got pyres all over this place. This could feasibly start lighting up other pyres if the fire lands near one of the other ones. So I'm going to be very cautious in lighting this one. You'll see the effects. It has requirements of 3 standing stones nearby And yeah, it's a thing. If it will do this, you can safely travel through this, so can animals and stuff, but it will also launch basically fireballs from the sky, causing a very large area to be set alight. So I'm just going to put this back out, and I'll be back in a minute here. There we go. No other rituals were started, thankfully. And in my experience, the fireballs themselves don't hurt anything. It's just the fire on the ground that really does it. But I have seen it land, and it looks like it might hit something. I don't think it does very much damage, but it's just interesting nonetheless. So if you wanted to have a really cool fire effect, maybe you've got fire tick turned off or something like that in your gaming world, that could be a lot of fun. But otherwise, no, it's very dangerous. Spreading forest. And yes, I realize that some of these aren't as useful as others. Some of them are tremendously useful. But I'm going to use Journey Map to teleport to the forest that I have set up over here. Now, you'll notice that I have a lot of glass over top of a bunch of saplings. I have your traditional vanilla saplings all set up in an area here. Let me actually show you. And I have the glass just so I can easily break it with ore excavation, and it all gets removed at once. And then they start growing. That is the idea here. The spreading forest will grow saplings, and then any saplings that have been grown, or any trees in the area, will start being considered to plant saplings nearby, and then it will grow those, and so on. And it will continue going as long as you have ingredients nearby, or it being fed with the ingredients. So to give an example in this one, let's actually take my pick, break all this. In fact, I'm going to break these too. And then I'm going to light this up. And then I'm going to back up. And you guys can see already that it is going to have an effect. Now I'm going to do a little time lapse here so you can see the effects that this will have in an area. And there you have it. That's pretty much the ritual. At first, you're probably thinking that's rather lackluster, and in fact, it did a whole bunch of these, the dark oak wood trees. That's because this one grew first. What I recommend if you're actually going to use this ritual to its best effect is whatever trees you want to grow in like the nearby area. Plant them equal distance if you want to have a variety. Otherwise, if you don't care, just plant, one or two of them or something. Have them already grown, and then you don't need to worry about it. So I'm going to light it one more time, and then you guys can see how big of an area this can really start to affect with its growth enhancing. And there you go. Once again, it doesn't really look as impressive as one might think compared to some of the other rituals. Well, that's because, as I said, this one is more for feeding underneath. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these ingredients here. I'm going to put them in a chest underneath, and then we're going to rerun this and let it run for a while. And then you can see just how effective this can be as a set it and forget it type method for, getting a whole bunch of ingredients in there. All right, so let's put down the chest, and I can put all these ingredients in there. Then I light this up. And then we run away for a bit. And don't worry, the bonfires, they don't catch anything on fire. So you don't need to really worry about that. But I am going to get a really good outside view. And then I'm going to let this run for a while because it's just going to constantly keep going. And we'll see when I come back. And there you have it. One large square area that's pretty well populated with trees. Now this did take some time for this to happen. But, as I said before, everything in its own place. Let's have a look at what's left. There you go. That's not bad. I mean, there's still plenty left in here. Half the oak was just used out of the first stack, but it's just automatically set. So you just set it and forget it, and you've got yourself your own built-up forest. And here we are at the next ritual, and that is Windwall. This one actually is pretty impressive, especially when you compare it to some of the other ones. But it will push all non-passive mobs away. So to give an example, a cow is a passive mob. A spider is kind of a neutral mob that is not really passive by nature. I mean, it will attack you if you attack it. So therefore, if I start this up, the spider is going to get blown away. Quite a distance, in fact. So this can really help keep your area pretty darn safe as it is. And just in case you're curious again what the ingredients list was on it, it's not too bad. All these are very easy to grow. Just some trees, some cloudberries and stuff. little bit of the Moonglow leaves. I don't think I have any on my list there, but it's pretty good. And it'll last for a good while, and it will push for a good while as well, or a good distance at least, very, very far. So this is really good for hedging out enemies. You can then have a bunch of positive effects going in the center as well, especially if you have things a bit automated and whatnot. So next up, we've got Warding Protection. This one is a little bit more interesting in how it works. I've got a Valantir down here. As you can see, it uses glistering melon as one of its ingredients. It requires several of the standing stones, but it will ensure no damage to all that's in the area. So, to give an example, I have this cow here, and I also have myself to use as an example. So first, let's light this up as such, and therefore it is now running. Things will not take damage. You can see in the top left, the cow is injured. Actually, I can't even hit the cow. If I hit it with a sword, it's not actually taking any damage. So therefore, this is one way of protecting a lot in an area, if you so desired. But it will also affect mobs, something to be very aware of. Now, here's another bonus. If I'm up in the sky and this ritual is going and I'm affected by it before I hit the ground, I will ultimately not take any damage. Now, it's a matter of if you're falling fast enough that the ritual will take effect before you take that hit. So, something to keep in mind. It is something that will constantly keep going, but there's always that possibility that you might be falling really too fast, or you hit something up at the very edge of where this covers and so on. But yeah, warding protection, pretty cool, and I need a bucket of water. All right, on to the next one. We've got Purify. Purify is, I don't know, a little bit more interesting. I'm sure that there are ways that you could fix this, but currently, to use this, but currently, in its current version, it will remove status ailments from all of those in the area. And that applies to mobs as well. And to give an example, I am currently in survival. I have a splash potion of poison. I also have a horse, and just for good measure, let's actually get this bucket of water. Now I'm going to load this up, and it does require a baffle cap as well as empty glass bottle and a bucket of milk. So it's kind of curious how that works. But if I light it up, if I spawn in a horse, and I've got let's bring in a spider as well, and then we can do a splash potion. We'll bring in a cow, sure. A poison. We all get poison, but we're all cured of it instantly. That fast. I mean, it works really good. Does not work for fire in the current iteration. That might change. I don't know. But yeah, it's something that's pretty darn cool and can be useful. All right, this next one is a bit frosty. It is Frostlands. It basically will put a bunch of snow in an area, but it does a lot more than that. So instead of just having your own little winter wonderland, it also has a chance for spawning snow golems. And if there are any snow golems in the area, it will also heal them, and will also freeze lava into obsidian and water into ice. So this is one way, with a bit of snow and some other ingredients, of making yourself some of these items in an area. So I'm going to light this up, and then I'm going to kind of back off, do another time lapse on this, and we'll see what it looks like before and after. So light it up. It's a nice blue flame as well, which I think is absolutely lovely. And it will actually cover in quite a large area. Let me zoom out here. And now you can see it's already starting to begin. And I'll come back once it's completed. There we go. And the ritual's not even completed yet, but you can already see that there's a couple snow golems, that the lava has frozen over, and the little pond that I had built over there also froze over. Now, here's the thing, though. If you're in a hot environment, this isn't going to change the biome type or anything. So it will, therefore the snow and ice and whatnot will start melting as you might be in a different biome that could be hot. So, but your lava will stay as obsidian. But then again, you could always just, pour some water over it. But it should, at least be pretty darn cool with Frostlands. And here we have Summon Creature, which actually can be very useful, especially if you're doing some kind of skyblock or something like that. But it basically will summon a creature depending upon the offering plate. Remember earlier I said that there would be some that might use the offering plate? This is one specifically that does. You have to have an offering plate nearby, and it will accept, at the time of this video, one of 6 different items. I imagine that this will expand over time, but for now, it will summon chickens from raw chicken, pigs from raw pork chops, cows from raw beef, and then in the mystical world stuff, it will summon beetles from carapaces. It will summon deer from leather and a fox from a pelt. So if you have these items, you can therefore summon more. Of course, you can always get some of those items from different drops on other rituals as well. So therefore, you can propagate without even having to breed the animals. You just get the drops and then you can actually create more. But this will only work with one pedestal at a time. You can't just place a whole bunch of pedestals. So this is the cost for this to happen. It's almost instantaneous. It doesn't end up going on for several minutes like most of the other rituals do. But once I light this up, boop, there you go. I now have a cow. Hello. All right, on to the next one. All right, this one here is flower growth. It's very simple. It's mostly involved to allow you to grow, well, flowers in an area. And of course, I'm going to light this one up. And as I said, just grows flowers in an area. We're going to let that go for a little bit. Once it's done, we can come back. But for now, you can see that there are pretty much no flowers there. There are some over here. I did actually use a summon ritual not long ago over in this area, and I ended up harvesting a bunch. But as you can see, there's already several flowers are currently popping into existence. So yeah, we'll come back and take a look at that one. But in the meantime, we're going to take a look at this other one, which is actually really, really important. Transmutation. Turn one thing into another. That's right. It actually does require a few more interesting items this time. But once you get it going, it can turn one item into another. If you have dead bush, it will turn that into something. Pumpkins into something else. Birch logs and leaves into something else still. And pumpkins on sand and pumpkins over water are 2 totally different things. Now, if you want to know the answers to all of this and more, just check out your book as you normally would for this. Transmutation, and it will tell you all the things you can turn. Dead bushes turn into coca beans. You've got birch logs into jungle wood, and then jungle leaves with the birch leaves. Now, pumpkins planted above still or flowing water will transform into melons. And then pumpkins planted on sand will turn into cactus. So that's at least what this is planning to do. So once I light it up, then it will take a little bit, and these items will slowly be converted over time. And there you go. You can already see some of them are already happening. Now, while that's going, let's actually take a look. You can see that many more of the flowers are coming up. And it's not just, one specific type of flower. It is actually bringing in a good variety. This is not a flower forest biome or anything, so it has potential to bring you a bunch of flowers you normally would not receive in that biome if you just ran around bone milling stuff. Or at least that's what I like to think. Now, coming back over here, you can see that they have turned into jungle leaves. We've got a melon, we've got the coca beans, and we've got the cactus. Just that simple. And you can still place down more if you want as well. You don't just have to let it, have these things already placed. But it is a very good and useful one that I'm sure will have plenty more transmutation options in the future, but right now that's all there is at the moment. All right, folks, I've saved what I consider to be the best for the last, and that is an example of some automation involving the last 3 categories. First up and foremost, we have a whole bunch of this here, the aqueous soil, the self-harvesting stuff that we've got. I showed in the previous bit by bit. Well, if you remember, you plant stuff on here, it will automatically harvest. If it's solid underneath, it will automatically pop up out of there. Well, I currently have a ritual that will also amplify the speed at which things grow. Germination slowly grows crops in an area. Obviously, the area is going to be bigger than what I have here. I'm just using this as demonstration. And I have a little something extra that I'm showing here, and that is that there's standing stones and multiple pyres going on. That's because they are sharing standing stones. That's right, you can do this. You can actually have multiple rituals going that are currently just kind of like using the standing stones, if you so desire. Now, in this case, it's not very expensive stuff. You can easily grow most of these, except for the bone meal is going to be something you'll have to kind of harvest from skeletons. But if you light it up, you will then start seeing that things will slowly start getting little, little flashes of growth in the area. Now, of course, like I said, this will cover a much larger area, so therefore the bigger the area that this covers, more likely that it's actually going to be affecting the, like a lot more crops. So there you go. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening, but this is kind of making a mess now. So what are we going to need to do about this? Well, let's go over here to this. The Ritual of Gathering, which picks up all items in an area and it puts it in the chest below. On top of that, it will also use the items that you feed into it. Now, it does require iron ingot and redstone. It does last a while, just like that does, but obviously I want it to keep going. Each of these have chests underneath with the ingredients so that they can keep going and keep producing these things. So I'm going to light this one up. There we go, and it will now start pulling all these things out of the area, poof, just like that. And it now starts filling them up in here. Now, of course, I've got the ingredients for the spell just at the front. Everything down below is things that this has been picking up. And it's not just from this one single gathering ritual or the germination ritual. It's also from the animal harvest ritual. This one here, which doesn't actually require very much at all. If you have animals nearby, this is how you can passively get their drops without having to hurt them. Therefore, you can also use another ritual to create more if you don't want to feed them yourself. So, Animal Harvest, let's light this up, and you can start seeing that the animals in the area, as I said before, this one's being self-fed from the chest below, will start glowing. And when they glow, they drop drops. Of course, it's difficult to see because it's also being picked up by the other one. So let's actually just look in this chest, shall we? So we've got like beef, mutton, wool. You can see that those are going up. You get a lot of drops from these, my friends. This is a really good mechanic for getting a lot of animal drops in a relatively easy amount of time, and making it so that it's automatable by just filling up a whole bunch of ingredients. And of course, you've got your Ritual of Gathering, which kind of helps you out quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, each one using several standing stones. We've got a bunch of the soil being used. We've got automation from the chests below. You can even pipe these things around with different filters and whatnot, all sorts of other mods that can enhance or enable this to even further go in a much more advanced direction than the simple roots automation that is set up here. So it's really effective, really cool, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this, whoops, bit by bit, on Roots. Roots 3? Roots. Definitely. Both. Same. One and. So, so please be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, be sure to visit us on Twitch. Let us know. We stream most nights around 10 p.m. and or shortly thereafter. And you can always, spread the mischief to others as well. So until next time, I'll see you.